One of my biggest focuses in 2025 is to build more personal brands within the companies that we serve. So, helping them identify thought leaders within their company, be able to prop up those people and build out their personal brands. And we're doing the same thing internally at Breezy this year as well. 2024 was the first year that I put a really big emphasis on building a personal brand for myself, really consistently publishing content, trying to make more connections. And I saw a lot of great results from that, both offline from a sales perspective, as well as just better connections and relationships through creating better content here on LinkedIn. The other really cool result we saw last year was we really focused on identifying 1 to 2 thought leaders in every company that we serve and building up the personal brands of those thought leaders. We saw better traction in their content. We saw better connection with their audience because they were able to really take an actual human and a real person and attach it to the brand. Overall, we saw way better engagement. All of our metrics were looking much better across LinkedIn with this methodology, and we're going to be doubling down on it even more in 2025. As I started thinking through that and some of our biggest wins with our clients, I was like, why are we not doing this more internally as well? I'm really the only one that has a big focus on a personal brand within our company. I was like, I need to identify a couple of people within our company and figure out how to give them the resources, the tools, the encouragement, whatever it is, to start really building up personal brands for Breezy team members as well. So that's exactly what I did. I think this is really the way forward. I think this is going to be a huge part of the marketing machine going forward, is making sure that you have really strong personal brands, even within small companies and even within companies you wouldn't necessarily have always thought they really needed to have, personal branded, individuals within the company. I think it is a very, very underrated part of being able to see real traction, especially online. So from a process standpoint, because it's helpful for you as you maybe try to identify who could be those thought leaders, those people that you invest in their personal brands and try to get them to do the same. Here's a couple thoughts and a few different things that I did to figure that out for us internally. It's also the advice I give our clients when they're trying to identify those people in their companies as well. Number one, the person has to be willing. That is like the baseline. Not everybody wants to be public or online or film themselves and do these things, even though they are really important. So you have to find willing participants. That is number one. Number two, you have to give those people the why behind it to help them see like why this could be beneficial, not just for the company, but for them as well. That was really something I kind of learned through this process, is people need to understand that this can benefit them down the road, whether they're with you or not in the future. So once you've identified who's willing and who kind of understands that and who is, kind of down to do this, then you can kind of start to figure out, okay, what makes the most sense, who makes the most sense, and what niche should we push them into, because it's not just enough for them to just make whatever content. We identified 2 particular people, and I noticed that each of them have a very different style. They like working with certain kinds of clients and certain kinds of industries and spaces. And so we really need to help them lean into those things so they can make the most of what they're trying to do with their personal brand. So after identifying those 2 individuals, we really started to talk to them about, hey, what's your ideal situation with creating content? Like, what would you want your personal brand to feel like, look like? Collaborate, brainstorm with them, and really help them start to create a strategy for themselves and give them the time and resources they need to do that. If they're on salary, that means telling them like a portion of their week should be, associated with this. If they are a contractor, or if they're more of a billable hourly employee, kind of figuring out how that works as well. But you need to give them the time, the space, the resources, all those different things to be able to create ongoing content that can both benefit them and your company. Another 2 things I think are really, really key is you have to encourage their unique point of view. You can't dictate what kind of content they need to make, how they need to go about it, what it should look like. It's really, really important that they get to speak from where they're coming from. So it's authentic, it's genuine, it's what they're most passionate about talking about. Don't, tell them what topics they have to hit. Now, you might encourage a certain direction. You might encourage like, hey, let's really have you focus on this persona or this niche. And that's really fine, but let them be who they are, while also setting some boundaries around brand continuity. I think that's also a really important piece. One way we did this is we kind of talked about, okay, your LinkedIn profile, let's make sure that like the branding, the colors, the language you use isn't too far removed from our brand. Since we're pouring resources into you to build this personal brand, we're letting you use time and effort towards this. Let's make sure it's benefiting you 100%, but it's also benefiting the company at the same time. So kind of figure out what that looks like and how that's going to work for your brand is going to be unique to you. But I think kind of keeping in mind those things is really, really important. I'm curious if you are seeing the same kind of trend where personal branding is becoming so unbelievably essential, even for small businesses, big and large companies. I don't think the size really matters anymore. I think these things continue to grow in importance more and more. So I'm curious if these are changes that you're making in your business, or if you're leaning into these sorts of personal branding conversations. Would love to chat with you about it below.